Friday, everyone. We got through another week together. Welcome to the Friday Forum. Again, I'm Dave Franken, President and CEO of TEFLPros. Glad to have you here. We're halfway through January, making it work. It's a crazy month so far. Just crazy with good things. I'm loving the vibes coming in this year. Work's coming in. We started the year with a couple graduations, which was awesome. And just as quickly as we graduated some people, we had some new students enrolling in TEFLPros. I'm very excited for all of that. I think in the upcoming week, we're going to be hearing a graduate interview as well. I sat down with Milen for about 15 minutes of recorded time. Outside of recorded time, it was almost an hour. She has so much to share, and she's so excited with what her future can hold. So I can't wait for you guys to hear that. If you are tuning in via podcast post or YouTube, happy Friday to you. Glad to have you here. Glad to have you with us. There's a few new graphics being kicked around. We got a few new graphics going into this new year. Some new content coming up. I hope you're enjoying what the social media sites are producing. Feel free to interact with them as much as you'd like. I said we got some questions there. We have some ideas, teaching, business, relocation, a little bit of everything. So like I said, we're glad to have you here. It's another great Friday. I'm excited for the weekend. Honestly, it'll be good to sleep. That's something that I'm always excited for the weekend for. So I guess I talked about our topic in the Teachers Garden earlier this week. I said we're going to talk. We're going into teacher mode now. I try to keep our topics kind of dancing in between relocation, business, entrepreneurship, and of course, the heart of what we do, which is teaching, preparing you guys to be teachers. And I received a great question earlier this week. And someone asked me, I plan all these lessons. I put all these lessons together. And I guess she's tried these lessons with multiple groups. Some worked and some did not. And she asked me straight up, what makes a lesson good? Which is such a basic conversation. It's a basic conversation piece. It's a basic idea, but it rings so true to everyone who spends time planning lessons. And we all plan lessons very, very differently. We all plan lessons with very different goals and very different styles. And of course, a lot of times you don't know how your lesson is going to be received, myself included. I've taught many demographics, and I've had lessons that have gotten applauses, and I've had lessons where students have raised their hand and asked me if I was a real teacher. So what makes a lesson good? I know I think it's a very interesting idea to peel back the layers on. So that's something we can talk about today. And that student, I'm looking in my group right now. That student, she is present here. So I hope we can at least expand on some ideas, because those of you who know me know that there's never a yes or no answer. There's always this very long-winded diatribe about the topic and kind of how we can navigate to that answer on our own. Much like my teaching and my teaching style in the classroom, it's never just here's something, repeat it back to me, let's call it a day. I'm very in tune with self-discovery. I'm very into leading students on a journey where, it's almost like an Easter egg hunt or a mystery where they're picking up little clues along the way, and then you bring them to this grand finale. Sometimes you can, you do it over the course of a 45-minute class. Sometimes you do it over maybe a 5-course unit that might stretch over the course of a month. Or it all depends on what your expectation is as an instructor, as an educator. Most of my heyday as a teacher, I spent as a high school teacher. That's where I spent a majority of my time, in high school. And, so I had the luxury of seeing the same students week in, week out in large groups. And, I had to mold my lessons around that particular demographic. And some lessons landed, some lessons definitely did not. And some of the same lessons landed with some and were absolutely rejected by others. So that brings us to what is the common denominator? What is the secret sauce that makes a lesson, successful? A lesson, as I said, good. There's a lot to break down in that, but let's see if we can do it today. Let's take some time to do it. Hopefully this one shouldn't be a crazy long one, but let's see how many tangents I get caught up in. So when it comes to a lesson, a good lesson for starters, from just basic construction, you need to know what your goal is. Whether your goal is something over the course of 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or a month, you need to know what your end result is. And the lesson planning is kind of charting the course to get there. Now, this charting of a course is where the substance comes in. How are you going to do it? Are you going to use materials? Are you going to use video, audio, books, pictures, reading, vocabulary? I've found that, of course, a lesson that my students enjoy the most, as from a very, we'll say, diluted standpoint, is something that they're going to interact with. I know there's a thing we have here called TTT, which means teacher talk time, and it's valuable. I don't know when I teach if I strictly abide by the percentages of that, but the spirit of TTT is that you want the students talking more than you do. You want to be engaging them in round room discussions. You want to kind of keep them engaged in your material. And that's something I always asked myself is my material engaging? And I think a lot of times, especially as a high school teacher, teenagers have the attention span of goldfish. And I mean that in the nicest way. I love them to pieces, but their media, their minds, their thought process go in 1,000 different directions. And of course, being in school, you're going to have them in different modes. Because I'll go back to my high school. I was, the ADD kid, and my attention was anywhere but on the teacher. If I was in a classroom, that teacher probably got maybe a good 10, 15 minutes out of me. Then I would drift off and draw pictures, write music, song lyrics, whatever, plan activities, stuff, I guess. Stuff, I didn't have media when I was in high school. We didn't have cell phones. God only knows, but I would have been like in high school with a cell phone. I would have been worse than any student I ever had. But the engagement is what drove me. And when I would be kind of involved in a class, when a class would keep me going for the entire time, and I can think back, and I'm sure you can think back to those teachers who really engaged you. And I can probably double down on this and say that not only did those teachers engage you, they got you to enjoy the course, which actually made you say something like, I like math, I like history, I like English, I like science. Chances are, if you liked that class, it wasn't necessarily the pure substance of the class. Hey, uh, I like lizards, but biology never did it for me. And if my cousin is listening to this, I'm terribly sorry, man. I love geckos, love all these sorts of crazy creatures. Just never got into biology. Was not a thing for me. Um, I had some wonderful English teachers. My music teachers, they walked on water. And to this day, I love music. I love writing music. I love creating music. I love being part of the creative process. Um, and I think for a lot of us, when we become teachers, a lot of times those are the teachers we try and channel. And and those are the ones I think who engaged us, interacted with us, and also to a certain degree validated us. So when it comes to your planning your lesson, these are small things that we can just pick from. These small little adjectives, engaging, validating, administering, making sure that your lesson has purpose. I think all these things go into a meaningful lesson, whether it be a grammar point, whether it be a talking point. Activities, I always feel are huge. Engaging activities. You don't have to put together the most ingenious thing of all time. You don't have to be Steven Spielberg and direct gold out of this. To make a lesson meaningful, you can just have an activity. I've done things as simple as just, write down a bunch of topics on pieces of paper, tear them off, and have students draw them from my hand. Maybe one class, we wanted to focus on public speaking and getting up and speaking. So I gave them topics. I had one person give like a cheers to the class, and they had to, put together cheers for it. I had another one class, they just had to put together a small infomercial to sell something that is in the classroom, that they just saw. Little things like that, not master theater, but it gets their butts out of chairs, gets them talking, gets them in front of the class. And when you start doing that, when people start seeing that your lessons are multidimensional, then I think we start having something a little bit more substantial, something that we can develop on, something we can grow and develop, so to speak. Let's say if you are using a book, that was always, for me personally, I think books, not that I don't like books, they're great books with great lesson points, with great grammar points, great activities. I just don't like the fact that they stifle my creativity. I like to, I'm very robust with my lesson plans. So I'll take ideas from a book and I'll kind of expand on them. And maybe there'll be an exercise or a conversation, and I'll add maybe some real world interfaces to that. And I'll start, having people interact in that way. And once again, make more of a, more of an acting scene out of it, where you're kind of getting people to interact, individuals to interact, playing out. I think we one year, I think we read parts of The Crucible, and we acted out court scenes, and we held different characters, guilty, innocent for courts, based on, using the book as evidence, things like that. And I think people enjoyed that. I had students create memes for characters in, what was that? Of Mice and Men. We made memes for characters in Of Mice and Men, and the memes were absolute fire. They were great. Some of the memes made fun of me as a teacher. Some of them, made fun of the characters, but you could tell they were paying attention because, teenagers want to have a strong meme game. And you can tell that they were very proud of their work. Of course, did our teachers back in the 1990s have us make memes? Of course not. Um, you know, different times for different folks. But we are talking adding a new dynamic to your lesson planning. And this is something that maybe you can keep in mind when it comes to making a lesson, I said digestible, when it comes to making a lesson palpable for consumption based on your demographic. Figure out who you're teaching. When it comes to when you first have a new student, if you are meeting a new student for the first time, and this is more of maybe a one-on-one or a smaller group, 2, 3, 4, something like that, do a learner profile on them. Figure out their entity. Figure out what they're into. Are they sports fans? Are they, into travel? Are they into video games? Things like that. Because the more info they give you, the more they're telling you what their interests are, and you can just ricochet lessons off that all day. If you come to someone with grammar points, if you come to someone with topics, ideas, and you know for a fact that they love Xbox games, or they love a certain video game franchise, or they love football, American or real football, I guess they'll call it. You have a palette to serve up something that they will be interested in, as opposed to just kind of say, this is what I put together, and you're going to like it. Let me know if that has ever worked for you, or someone just kind of said, this is what you're going to like. And that way you kind of get to soft serve them a little bit. We get these topics in there, and from there you can expand. And once you expand, you kind of get the essence of the students, and you can play into that all day long. Your blueprints are already made for you. You have your arenas that you can work in, and you can expand on them. Of course, you don't have to have every lesson around travel, but you know that travel is your 6th degree of separation, and you can veer off from there. If they're into music, oh my goodness, music is like the easiest topic, because I think I had one student who just shook their head and said, I don't like music. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, what? No music at all, not even a soundtrack or movie. And somehow, some way we landed on some piece of music they enjoy. But also they expressed a hard opinion. I had them give a report on why music has no value to them. Good for perspective. So, when it comes to making a lesson good or not good in that regard, I think, of course, that there's a lot more philosophy and psychology that goes into planning a lesson beyond just photocopying a page and counting the minutes of an activity until you get to 45 minutes or 60 minutes or things like that. Because that's how I started. That's how I first got into teaching. And it just didn't work out. I said I had students that they didn't absorb it. And I mean, it's definitely a kick to the ribs when, you see students who are falling asleep, students who are jagging on their cell phones, students who are just uninterested. They're talking to each other, and you lose your classroom. And when you're a new teacher, something like that can be very intimidating. So, wipe the sweat off your eye, off your forehead, and roll your sleeves up and start digging into them. Start figuring out where you can get your claws in. What topics can you really kind of summon and bring forward? I know that with my young students, let's say I had, I taught, let's say in my high school years, I had four groups. I had the, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Simple as that. The 15-year-olds, they were cool. They were still kids. So, I mean, you talk about food, music, movies, film, travel is always a good one for them. Planning, friends, social life, social media. Um, those are all very safe topics that, generally speaking, if you really give it three dimensions, we call it low hanging fruit. When you get to your 16-year-olds, your 17-year-olds, they're starting to get a little bit more commentative, we'll say, of the world. And for them, you can really sink your teeth into maybe more social issues. You can talk about, if in a very objective kind of way, you can talk about politics. You can talk about current events. They get behind a lot of causes at that age. You can talk about, have them give presentations and, teach you about various topics and interests that they have, because the 16 and 17-year-olds, those are the hard opinion years, where you're gonna get a lot of students who want to do a lot of very prolific things very, very quickly, and they also think they know everything, which is wonderful for conversation classes, because you will get staunch responses with impunity. And then come the 18-year-olds, the seniors in high school. They have checked out. They hate everything. These guys, you need to talk to them, or at least I say you to. I sound very, very authoritative on that. I would recommend with the, if that's your demographic, the seniors in the high school, what you want to do is you want to expose them to new ideas, because they are bored of school. They are sick of school. They are not fans of being there anymore. So you're going to have to kind of play with the lights a little bit. You're going to have to maybe give them novels that have ideas that are very on the forefront. I did Of Mice and Men with them. I did 2001: A Space Odyssey with them. I did Catcher in the Rye with them. And I did Animal Farm as well with my seniors, as far as books go, book units and things like that. And if you bring the philosophies out, not all of them, but you will have enough students latch on to those where the ideas are going to start pumping. And you just, like I said, sit back and let them give you your thoughts. And in the meantime, just orchestrate your lessons around that, be it grammar, be it vocab, reading, listening, speaking. All of these, can be drawn from these various topics and subjects. But those are just kind of different units and different styles I did for those groups over the last about 11 years. Just seeing who's into who's into what. And those were kind of the lessons that really, really hit. So as far as what makes a lesson good, I definitely just poured out about 25 minutes talking about this, but we're going to wrap it up now. But what makes a lesson good? I would say attention to detail. Giving your lesson the individual thought process it deserves based on who is going to be taking in your lesson and how you expect that to be received. I think those are very important elements when it comes to planning a lesson, what you're bringing to it, and also how you execute it. Very important things. So, like I said, if you have any lesson planning ideas, please feel free, leave them in the comments. Throw them out here on the Teachers Garden if you are here in the garden. on the YouTube channel, on the social media. We're going to be bringing up a lot more topics for lesson planning that hopefully we can, make, I mean, like, lesson planning as a teacher, that is your gym workout. That is where you just keep on working and keep on focusing on lesson planning. And when you get real good at it, that's your moneymaker. When you can sit there and put together a solid lesson, I talked about this, I think, a few videos ago, but when you can put together a lesson in, 10, 15 minutes, pow, pow, that's how you do it. Those are the things you focus on. And as I said, it'll start getting easier. You'll start seeing results a lot better. Trial and error. Don't be afraid of trial and error. As you go out there teaching, every student response is something to help you, is a response that you can use to figure out, all right, hey, what hit? What didn't? I was not a high school teacher until I was a high school teacher. I did not have a background for teaching high school. They dressed me up, threw a suit and tie on me, pushed me into a classroom and said, do your thing. And that was, I mean, nightmare levels of fear, but also a great learning experience and a great way to figure out what worked and what didn't. My first year in my first high school, man, I was tripping over myself just trying to have something palpable. And I had a few lessons that worked. I had a lot of lessons that absolutely did not. Fast forward, I switched to another high school. Suddenly, different style, different, expectation. I started kind of gelling with that school. I had some ideas that worked. I tried some things. So some things worked, some things didn't. I was and am very eccentric, and my lessons a lot of times involved like real world stuff. They involved interactions, not just in the classroom, but also in society, where the students would bring the tales of their interactions back, which got kind of weird sometimes. Here's a fun tangent. I did a unit on conspiracy theories, and I gave each student a conspiracy theory to research and bring back their learners. And I think um one of the elements of that, one of the report elements of that, was they had to interview someone who believed in that conspiracy theory. So, let's say you had chemtrails, or, you had Bigfoot or MK Ultra. Well, I guess MK Ultra wasn't a conspiracy theory. But the whole lot of them, Kennedy assassination, various things. And then I had one young lady. She was, oh my goodness. It's the name of it is leaving me now. Of course, now that I'm doing something live, I forget it. She had the thing that she drew was that whole thing we had 8 years ago in the USA with the deep state and the cabal and all that jazz. And she found a conspiracy theorist, and they just like sent her to the dark web and all of these Illuminati things and stuff like that. She just came back and she was like, I can't make heads or tails of this other than just that, it turned into this human biopic. But while she was absolutely, confused by what she got, she put together a great report about it. And it was really cool because it was interactive. It was a real world experience. I had the younger students, I had them find their dream homes. Then we learned how to calculate mortgages so they'll know how much they need to get paid to afford their home, to get a mortgage for their home, real life stuff. And those are the things that they really took to. So you start on one side, but it's a journey. Get from point A to point B. And like I said, you'll always be a better teacher by the end of your lesson than you were at the beginning. And you just rinse and repeat that over and over and over again. So again, I'll tell you, please share some stories, share some lessons, lessons that hits, lessons that totally missed. I have dozens of stories of lessons that just fell flat on their face and the absolutely ridiculous responses I got from them. But that's for another day. So again, I want to wish you all a happy Friday. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for giving a listen. If you are interested in taking our course, head over to TEFLPros.com. And I said, our course director, Elaine, is excited to meet you. I'll be involved in the mix as well. We're going to get you in and get you certified, 120 hours, fully accredited. And like I said, we're going to start out this new year strong. So thanks again and have a wonderful week. I'll see you guys next Friday. Cheers.